The sun rose over the Johannesburg skyline, casting golden light over the city that never truly slept. The streets were a blend of movement and stillness, a symphony of human ambition. Cars honked softly as morning commuters hurried past street vendors selling fresh bread and coffee. In the midst of it all, the sound of distant laughter drifted from the parks, a reminder of lives that carried on, full of dreams and hidden struggles. Amidst this city of contrasts lived Thabo Mthembu, a man whose journey had been both ordinary and extraordinary. Thabo had grown up in a small township on the outskirts of the city, a place where the streets were uneven, but the people were warm and resilient. His parents, Sifo and Lindai, had worked tirelessly to give their children what they'd not have themselves: stability, education, and hope. Sifo was a taxi driver with hands calloused by years of steering through traffic and life's uncertainties, while Lindai balanced jobs as a cleaner and seamstress, her laughter often filling their modest home with a sense of light even during the heaviest days. From an early age, Thabo understood the value of persistence. He remembered evenings sitting under the dim light of a single bulb, sketching buildings in the margins of his school notebooks. He would imagine towers that touched the clouds, homes that held warmth and safety, and entire neighborhoods where community thrived. While his peers played football in dusty fields, Thabo's mind wandered through lines, angles, and the quiet beauty of structures that had yet to exist. School was both a challenge and a refuge. Teachers recognized his curiosity and diligence, often encouraging him to pursue architecture, a field that promised not just success but the ability to leave a mark on the world. His closest friend, Sifo, would often tease him about drawing too much and playing too little. Yet even he admired the focus in Thabo's eyes when he spoke of designs that could reshape communities. After university, armed with a degree in architecture and a quiet confidence, Thabo stepped into the professional world, determined to make his family proud. He landed a position at a respected firm in the city center, a place where glass towers reflected ambition, and the scent of opportunity hung in the air. Thabo's work ethic was unmatched. He spent long hours refining blueprints, balancing innovation with practicality, and slowly, the city began to notice his talent. Among his colleagues was Naledi Nkosi, a consultant known for her sharp intellect and keen eye for aesthetics. She was ambitious, glamorous, and radiated a confidence that drew attention effortlessly. Thabo appreciated her perspective professionally, but remained focused on his principles: hard work, respect, and integrity. Outside of work, Thabo's life was quiet. He lived in a modest but neatly arranged apartment, walls lined with sketches and inspirational quotes from great architects. Evenings were spent reading, reflecting, and sometimes wandering through Johannesburg's quieter streets, marveling at the juxtaposition of wealth and struggle, beauty and decay. It was during one of these evening walks that his life intersected with that of Ayanda Damini. Ayanda was a teacher at a private school, known for her compassionate heart and gentle demeanor. Her family had instilled in her a sense of responsibility and kindness that she carried into every classroom, every interaction. Ayanda's days were filled with lessons, stories, and small acts of care, yet there was a quiet ache in her life, an unfulfilled longing that whispered beneath the surface. When Thabo and Ayanda met at a community literacy event in Mabanang, their connection was instant. She was arranging books for children and encouraging parents to engage with their young ones, while Thabo, volunteering to help design a small community reading center, admired her calm efficiency and warm smile. Their first conversation was brief, a polite exchange about the importance of education and safe spaces for children. Yet both felt a spark, subtle but undeniable. In the weeks that followed, casual meetings became intentional ones. Coffee dates in the early mornings before work, quiet walks in Bramfontein, and evenings discussing design, literature, and the future began to weave their lives together. Thabo admired Ayanda's ability to see beauty in simplicity, to bring meaning to everyday moments. Ayanda in turn was drawn to Thabo's vision, His dedication to creating not just buildings but spaces where life could flourish. Slowly, a love rooted in respect, understanding, and shared values blossomed. Their families met and approved. Parents smiled at the alignment of two lives built on care, integrity, and dreams. Friends noticed how their presence softened each other. How laughter flowed more freely when they were together. Eventually, their bond led to a modest yet elegant ceremony in the hills outside the city. The vows were spoken with sincerity, promises made not just for the present, but for the unseen challenges and triumphs of the future. Life settled into a rhythm. Thabo's career flourished as he took on larger projects, designing buildings that spoke of community and elegance, each structure reflecting the soul of the people it served. Ayanda continued teaching, inspiring her students and nurturing a home filled with warmth. Yet, as often happens in life, the pressures of ambition and responsibility began to creep into their relationship. Thabo's long hours at the firm, the constant meetings, and the pursuit of architectural excellence slowly chipped away at the time they once shared. Ayanda noticed the change but remained patient, believing love was stronger than circumstance. It was during this period that a new colleague entered Thabo's world. Zinal Malangu, a marketing consultant with ambition and allure, started collaborating with him on major projects. Zinal was captivating, confident, and aware of her presence, qualities that drew people in effortlessly. Thabo respected her professionally, but over time, the subtle attention, the shared late nights discussing designs, and the complemented brilliance became a distraction. Their interactions, while initially harmless, began to shift the balance, introducing distance into the once harmonious rhythm of his marriage. Ayanda sensed the change, the quiet withdrawal of Thabo from their shared evenings and conversations. Her heart ached with unspoken concern, yet she remained steadfast, hoping that love and patience would restore what seemed to be slipping away. Eventually, the tension culminated in an unspoken reckoning. Conversations grew tense, silences stretched longer, and despite her unwavering support, Thabo made choices that fractured their bond. Divorce followed, not with anger but with a quiet recognition that paths had diverged. Ayanda moved into a tranquil home closer to her family in Pretoria, supported by her parents and friends, embracing a life of peace and resilience. During this time, she discovered a life-changing truth: she was carrying Thabo's child. This revelation, though filled with challenges, brought with it a profound sense of purpose. She named her son Sipho after her father, a name embodying strength, hope, and continuity. Raising Sipho alone, Ayanda poured her love into him, creating a nurturing environment where education, empathy, and integrity were paramount. Thabo, meanwhile, immersed himself in work, achieving professional milestones, yet often feeling a subtle emptiness in the quiet moments, a nostalgia for what had been lost. Years passed, Sipho grew into a bright and curious boy, embodying the best of both his parents. Ayanda's home resonated with laughter, creativity, and stability. The past remained unspoken, a quiet shadow, until one fateful evening in Johannesburg when the unexpected happened. Thabo, weary from a day of meetings, entered a small bar seeking solitude. He paused as the familiar sight of Ayanda appeared at the entrance, holding the hand of a young boy whose bright eyes reflected a deep familiarity. Time seemed to freeze. Recognition, disbelief, and overwhelming emotion surged through him as he realized that the boy before him was his son, Sipho. The years of separation, choices made, and paths diverged all converged in that single moment of revelation. Thabo approached slowly, his heart pounding, his mind racing with regret and hope. Ayanda remained composed, a quiet strength emanating from her, while Sipho, innocent and curious, observed the encounter with gentle eyes. Words were spoken carefully, truths revealed, and apologies offered with sincerity. Ayanda's patience, resilience, and love were evident in every measured response. The foundation for a new chapter, fragile yet promising, was laid. The story of Thabo, Ayanda, and Sipho became one of redemption, growth, and the realization that life's most profound luxuries were not wealth or status, but the bonds forged through love, resilience, and unwavering care. The future remained uncertain, yet within the silence of that evening, hope glimmered, a quiet, persistent hope that life, when approached with integrity and courage, could rebuild itself, stronger and more meaningful than ever before. The days that followed the encounter at the bar were unlike anything Thabo had experienced in years. He returned home that evening with his mind in turmoil. The city lights of Johannesburg, usually a source of inspiration for his architectural visions, now seemed harsh and indifferent. He replayed the moment over and over, the small hand of Sipho in Ayanda's, the boy's curious eyes that mirrored his own, and Ayanda herself, poised yet guarded, as if the years of hardship had only sharpened her strength. Thabo's apartment, which had once been a sanctuary of sketches and quiet reflection, now felt hollow. The walls, lined with architectural awards and framed designs, seemed to whisper a painful truth: he had been absent for the most important years of his life. He sat for hours, sketchbook unopened, questioning not only the decisions that had led to his divorce but also the values he had once held so dear. Work, ambition, and recognition had seemed so vital, yet they could not undo the absence he now painfully felt. Meanwhile, Ayanda returned to Pretoria with a sense of calm determination. She had anticipated, in some quiet corner of her mind, that the past might one day resurface. She had built a life of discipline and stability for herself and for Sipho, and she was not willing to allow uncertainty to disrupt the foundation she had created. Yet, as she tucked Sipho into bed that night, she felt a flicker of something unexpected, relief that the truth was finally known, coupled with the dawning challenge of navigating this new reality. Sipho, blissfully unaware of the complex emotions swirling between his parents, asked simple questions. "Is that my father?" he asked, his voice tentative. Ayanda smiled gently, brushing his hair back. "Yes, my love," she said. "That is your father." She kept her explanation measured, knowing that the boy's world was still fragile and filled with curiosity. "We will figure out how to be together safely, little one. One step at a time." Thabo, meanwhile, knew that rebuilding a relationship with Sipho would require patience, humility, and consistent presence. It was no longer enough to feel remorse or regret. He needed to demonstrate through actions, not just words, that he could be a father worthy of his son's trust. The path ahead would be slow, deliberate, and full of emotional labor he had never before confronted. Over the following weeks, Thabo began the careful work of integration in Sipho's life. He visited Pretoria often, finding small ways to connect, sharing short walks in the local park, reading bedtime stories, and helping with school projects. Each interaction was small but profound. Sipho's laughter, tentative at first, slowly grew more genuine as he began to associate Thabo with security and kindness, not just the abstract figure of a father he had never known. Ayanda observed these moments carefully, balancing her protective instincts with the understanding that Sipho deserved the presence of both parents. She guided Thabo with gentle honesty, setting boundaries and encouraging him to invest not just in fleeting gestures but in steady, reliable presence. Thabo embraced these lessons with humility, realizing that wealth, status, and professional achievement meant nothing compared to the trust he needed to rebuild with his son. At work, Thabo's perspective shifted. Projects that once focused purely on aesthetic appeal now incorporated human-centered design and community impact. He began prioritizing spaces where families could connect, where children could play safely, and where neighborhoods could foster a sense of belonging. Colleagues noticed a change. His architecture had depth, empathy, and a maturity that reflected his personal transformation. Recognition followed, but this time it was secondary. The true reward was the sense of purpose he now felt with every blueprint he drafted. Ayanda, too, experienced a subtle but profound transformation. Her patience, honed through years in single parenthood, became a quiet force that shaped not only Sipho's upbringing, but also her own personal growth. She pursued her teaching with renewed vigor, now speaking to students not only about literature, but also about resilience, integrity, and the courage to face life's unforeseen challenges. The lessons she imparted carried a depth that came from lived experience, earning her admiration from parents, students, and colleagues alike. The dynamic between Thabo and Ayanda evolved gradually. Initial encounters were cautious, filled with polite conversation and tentative smiles. Yet, as weeks became months, they discovered that mutual respect, shared values, and the love for their son could serve as a bridge over the pain of the past. They began to communicate openly, discussing not only Sifo's upbringing but also the choices and regrets that had shaped their separate journeys. Trust, fragile at first, grew with consistent effort and honesty. South Africa, with its contrasts of luxury and struggle, provided a backdrop that mirrored their journey. Thabo's work brought him to neighborhoods that had once been overlooked, where he designed community spaces that blended elegance with accessibility. Ayanda guided Sifo through both city life and quieter suburban moments, ensuring he understood the value of humility alongside privilege. Luxury, they realized, was not about extravagance alone but about creating meaningful, impactful experiences for those around them. As Sifo grew older, his curiosity and intelligence became a source of inspiration for both parents. He would ask questions about architecture, literature, and history, bridging the worlds of his mother's passion and his father's craft. Thabo encouraged these inquiries, using them as opportunities to teach not just skills but also values, discipline, empathy, and perseverance. Ayanda reinforced these lessons, providing context and emotional grounding. The boy thrived in this environment, becoming a living testament to the power of parental cooperation and intentional love. Challenges remained. There were moments of tension when past grievances resurfaced, when Thabo's work commitments clashed with family needs, or when Ayanda's protective instincts seemed at odds with Thabo's desire for closeness. Yet, these challenges were met with conversation, compromise, and mutual respect. Each difficulty became an opportunity to demonstrate growth, patience, and emotional intelligence, qualities that had been tested in the crucible of their separate lives. Thabo's professional world continued to reflect his inner transformation. His designs began to attract international attention, yet he remained grounded, often visiting the communities where his buildings stood to ensure they fulfilled the purpose he intended. He hired local artisans, collaborated with schools, and involved residents in planning, creating structures that were not just luxurious but also meaningful. His reputation as an architect, who merged beauty with social impact, grew steadily, earning him awards and invitations to speak at conferences. Though he never allowed the accolades to overshadow the real work, the lives he touched. Ayanda's influence extended beyond the classroom. She organized community reading programs, mentorship initiatives, and workshops for children, integrating the values of resilience, integrity, and ambition she hoped to instill in Sifo. Together, the family embodied a model of thoughtful, intentional living, showing that luxury and success were most fulfilling when coupled with purpose and emotional connection. Despite the passing years, the memory of past pain remained a silent guide. Thabo never forgot the cost of absence, nor did Ayanda forget the struggle of raising a child alone. But both had transformed that pain into strength, using it to build a family life in love, respect, and accountability. Each day, Sifo's laughter reminded them that even in the face of past mistakes, the future could be shaped with intention and care. The moment of complete realization came on a quiet summer afternoon. The three of them sat together on the veranda of Ayanda's home, the city skyline visible in the distance. Thabo watched Sifo play with a small set of pudding blocks, his hands mimicking the motions Thabo once used in his sketches. Ayanda smiled softly, observing the interaction. Words were unnecessary, the connection was palpable. In that instant, both parents understood that their journey, marked by heartbreak, resilience, and rediscovery, had reached a turning point. They were not simply coexisting, they were a family, forged through intentional love, conscious effort, and mutual respect. Thabo realized that true luxury was not measured by the tallest skyscraper, or the most prestigious award, but by the quality of moments shared, the love nurtured, and the integrity maintained. Ayanda recognized that strength did not mean holding life's burdens alone, it meant opening space for trust, forgiveness, and growth. And Sifo, unaware of the depth of history that had brought them together, embodied the promise of a life rebuilt with intention, hope, and love. From that day onward, their lives unfolded with a new rhythm. Weekends were spent exploring cultural festivals, visiting museums, and attending school events that blended education with enjoyment. Thabo incorporated Sifo into design projects, teaching him principles of balance, aesthetics, and problem-solving in ways a father and son could both appreciate. Ayanda continued to nurture both, fostering emotional intelligence, curiosity, and confidence. The family's journey became an example within their community, a quiet testament to resilience, responsibility, and the enduring power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. The months that followed were filled with both routine and wonder. Thabo's visits to Pretoria became more frequent, no longer tentative steps into unfamiliar territory, but purposeful journeys to spend meaningful time with Sifo and Ayanda. They began establishing traditions, simple yet profound, that anchored their evolving family life. Every Sunday, they would visit the Johannesburg Botanical Gardens, where Sifo could run freely among flowering meadows, while Thabo and Ayanda walked together, exchanging thoughts, sharing stories, and slowly mending the delicate threads of trust that had once frayed. Thabo discovered that fatherhood was a practice in humility. The first time he helped Sifo assemble a model house, he realized that patience was no longer a virtue reserved for work. It was a necessity for life. Sifo's small hands trembled with concentration, and Thabo had to quiet the inner voice that demanded perfection. He learned to celebrate the small victories. A block balanced carefully on top of another, a drawing colored within the lines, a question asked with curiosity. These moments became far more precious than any professional accolade or recognition. Ayanda noticed subtle changes in Thabo too. He was calmer, more reflective, less consumed by the relentless chase of career advancement. He began consulting with local communities about the purpose of his architectural projects, ensuring they served not only function but also fostered connection. In boardrooms, he advocated for socially conscious designs, integrating green spaces, community areas, and affordable housing. His colleagues, some initially skeptical of his softened approach, soon recognized the value in his vision. Thabo's reputation grew not just for brilliance in architecture but for integrity and thoughtful innovation. Sifo, growing taller and more confident with each passing year, developed an insatiable curiosity about the world around him. He asked endless questions, not only about the shapes of buildings or the structure of words, but also about life itself. Why do people sometimes hurt each other? He asked one afternoon while walking home from school, his small hand clutching Thabo's. Thabo paused, choosing his words carefully. People make mistakes, my son. But it is how we respond to those mistakes that defines us. We can choose to act with kindness, patience, and courage. Sifo nodded thoughtfully, absorbing the lesson with a seriousness that both humbled and inspired his father. Ayanda, observing the bond between father and son, felt a quiet pride. She had feared the emotional turbulence of integrating Thabo into their lives. But the patience, consistency, and sincerity he showed gradually earned her trust anew. She realized that healing was not about forgetting the past, but about acknowledging it and using it as a foundation for growth. Her own heart, once heavy with grief and loneliness, began to feel lighter as she witnessed the family they were slowly becoming. Luxury, they discovered, was no longer defined solely by material wealth or social status. For Thabo and Ayanda, it was the quiet moments of connection, the laughter shared over a simple meal, the pride in seeing Sifo learn, grow, and express his individuality. It was reflected in the elegance of thoughtful design, whether a home, a park, or a community center, that harmonized beauty with purpose. It was evident in the way they supported each other emotionally, celebrated milestones with genuine joy, and approached life with intentionality and respect. At Thabo's firm, the transformation in his work ethic and philosophy did not go unnoticed. He was assigned to lead a high-profile project in Cape Town, the redesign of a historic district to incorporate modern living spaces, without erasing cultural heritage. Thabo approached the project with the same values he had cultivated at home: empathy, responsibility, and sustainability. He collaborated with local artisans, historians, and community leaders, ensuring that every detail reflected not only aesthetic beauty, but also the people who would inhabit and benefit from the space. Ayanda and Sifo traveled with Thabo to Cape Town during planning phases, blending work and family life. Sifo, fascinated by the mountains, the ocean, and the interplay of sunlight on the city's vibrant buildings, began sketching his own ideas in a small notebook he carried everywhere. Ayanda encouraged him, offering gentle guidance while ensuring he retained the freedom to imagine without constraint. The boy's creativity was nurtured, and his bond with Thabo strengthened with each shared sketch, discussion, and adventure. Despite their growing harmony, challenges occasionally arose. Thabo's work demanded long hours, and Ayanda's teaching schedule required early mornings and evenings preparing lessons. Balancing professional ambitions with family needs was an ongoing negotiation, a dance that required communication, compromise, and emotional awareness. Yet, each challenge became a lesson in patience, understanding, and the importance of prioritizing relationships over external accolades. One evening, after a long day inspecting the progress of the Cape Town project, Thabo, Ayanda, and Sifo sat on a rooftop terrace overlooking the city. The sky was painted in shades of purple and gold, the ocean reflecting the last glimmers of sunlight. Thabo turned to Ayanda, his expression sincere. "I once thought success was defined by recognition and achievement," he said softly. "Now I know that real success is here, in the life we are building together, in the love we share, in the impact we have on others." Ayanda smiled, squeezing his hand. "And we are just getting started," she replied. Sifo, leaning between them, laughed, the sound a melody of innocence and hope. As the years passed, the family continued to thrive. Thabo's architectural projects expanded beyond South Africa, with designs commissioned across the continent. Each endeavor reflected his evolving philosophy: elegance tempered with empathy, luxury balanced with accessibility, and ambition guided by conscience. Ayanda's educational initiatives grew to include mentorship programs, literacy drives, and workshops for young teachers, inspiring countless students and educators alike. Sifo, now approaching adolescence, showed remarkable intellect, creativity, and empathy. He excelled academically but also demonstrated emotional maturity, understanding the nuances of human relationships and the value of collaboration. Thabo and Ayanda nurtured these qualities, encouraging independence while remaining steadfast sources of guidance and support. The boy became a bridge not only between his parents, but also between the ideals of work, compassion, and community impact that defined their shared values. Their journey, though marked by early heartbreak, had transformed into a powerful narrative of resilience, intentional living, and the redefining of luxury. The family had learned that the greatest wealth lay not in possessions or status, but in trust rebuilt, lessons internalized, and love expressed through actions. They were living proof that even after betrayal, separation, and years of uncertainty, life could be redirected toward fulfillment, growth, and profound emotional richness. And yet, there were moments when the past would surface, memories of old mistakes, missed opportunities, and the roads not taken. Thabo would occasionally reflect on the choices that had led him away from Ayanda and Sifo in the early years, feeling the weight of regret. But those reflections no longer crippled him. Instead, they fueled his determination to be intentional and genuine in every action. Ayanda, too, carried the lessons of solitude and self-reliance, recognizing the strength that it allowed her to nurture Sifo and create a life imbued with stability and love. Through it all, the city of Johannesburg and the broader South African landscape served as both backdrop and character in their story, a place of contrasts, of wealth and poverty, of vibrant culture and persistent challenges. The family's experiences mirrored the country in self-resilience in the face of adversity, elegance achieved through effort, and beauty realized in both the physical and emotional landscapes they inhabited. One summer morning, the family visited Robben Island. Standing where history had once tested human endurance and spirit, Sipho asked questions about the struggles endured by those who came before, and Thabo and Ayanda answered thoughtfully, instilling lessons of courage, perseverance, and ethical responsibility. It was a poignant reminder that life's luxury lay not merely in comfort, but in the wisdom acquired from both triumphs and trials. The story of Thabo, Ayanda, and Sipho became a quiet legend in their circle, a testament to emotional resilience, motivational growth, and the transformative power of love and commitment. They had learned to navigate life's unexpected turns with grace, turning heartbreak into opportunity, challenges into lessons, and loss into a deeper appreciation for the present. Their luxury life was not defined by superficial wealth, but by the richness of relationships, purposeful work, and the enduring bonds of family. The transition from childhood to adolescence is often delicate, and Sipho was beginning to navigate the edges of that change. He was growing taller, more curious, and increasingly aware of the world beyond the walls of their home. School brought both excitement and challenge, as he encountered classmates from varied backgrounds and ambitions. Through it all, Ayanda and Thabo remained constant guides, offering wisdom and encouragement without suffocating his independence. Thabo had learned from the past that authority without empathy can distance people, while patience, attention, and gentle guidance could cultivate respect and trust. One evening, as Sipho struggled with a particularly difficult mathematics problem, Thabo knelt beside him, his own hands tracing the lines of the textbook. "It's not about getting it right the first time," Thabo said softly. "It's about understanding, learning, and trying again. Every mistake is a building block, just like in architecture." Sipho's eyes lit up with understanding, the metaphor connecting his father's profession with his own journey of growth. Ayanda encouraged this learning philosophy at home as well. She integrated literature, history, and creative thinking into Sipho's routine, teaching him to see patterns, question assumptions, and embrace curiosity. She would tell him stories of remarkable South Africans who had overcome adversity, weaving motivation and real life lessons into their everyday conversations. Her approach was subtle but profound. She was not raising a child for accolades, but for resilience and integrity. Meanwhile, Thabo's professional journey continued its upward trajectory. The Cape Town project had completed successfully, earning him recognition not only for innovative design, but also for his ethical and inclusive approach. He began receiving commissions from prominent figures across South Africa, seeking spaces that combined elegance with community impact. Luxury, for Thabo, had evolved into something far deeper than opulent finishes. It was measured by experiences, social contribution, and emotional resonance. The family frequently traveled for these projects. From the vineyards of Stellenbosch to the dynamic skyline of Durban, Sipho was introduced to the beauty and diversity of his country. He learned about architecture that respected local culture, sustainable practices that preserved natural beauty, and the responsibility of using privilege wisely. Each trip became both an educational experience and a moment to bond, strengthening the family's unity and shared purpose. Despite the outward success, the challenges of adolescence began to test Sipho's patience, confidence, and emotional resilience. Peer pressure, social dynamics, and the natural struggle to assert independence created moments of tension. On one afternoon, Sipho came home frustrated, having faced criticism from classmates over a project he had poured hours into. Thabo and Ayanda sat with him, listening patiently before offering guidance. "Life will always have critics," Thabo said. "What matters is whether you listen to the ones who truly care and learn from what is helpful." The rest is noise. Ayanda added. Your worth isn't determined by what others say. It's measured by the integrity of your choices, your compassion, and your commitment to grow. These words were seeds planted, lessons that would shape Sifo's character in the years to come. In parallel, Thabo's personal philosophy evolved. He began hosting workshops for young architects and designers, emphasizing the importance of purpose-driven work. He encouraged them to think beyond profits, considering how their designs could uplift communities, enhance human connection, and reflect ethical responsibility. His work became a model for combining luxury with social impact, and the recognition he received was amplified by the tangible changes his projects brought to the lives of ordinary people. Ayanda's influence spread beyond the home as well. Her school became a hub for motivational programs, where students were encouraged to explore their passions, understand their values, and pursue education as a tool for meaningful change. She collaborated with other educators across South Africa, sharing strategies for fostering emotional intelligence, resilience, and creative thinking. The reputation of her school grew not merely for academic excellence, but for cultivating well-rounded, socially conscious young people. Sifo began to understand the blend of luxury, discipline, and responsibility firsthand. He saw that his parents' lives were not defined by ease or indulgence, but by careful, deliberate choices that balanced ambition with care for others. On weekends, he accompanied Thabo to project sites, learning how to engage respectfully with construction teams, understand community needs, and observe the intersection of design and daily life. These experiences, in a sense of accountability and purpose that no textbook could provide. The emotional connection between Thabo and Ayanda deepened as well. The cautious respect that had marked their early post-reunion interactions gave way to genuine companionship and mutual admiration. They shared moments of laughter, quiet reflection, and heartfelt conversation, slowly allowing themselves to imagine a shared future beyond co-parenting. Past regrets were acknowledged, lessons internalized, and a foundation of trust strengthened with every shared experience. Luxury living in their world was increasingly defined by experiences rather than material possessions. They attended cultural events, private exhibitions, and philanthropic gatherings, not for status, but to connect with ideas, people, and causes that aligned with their values. Their home, while elegant, prioritized warmth, functionality, and inclusivity. Spaces were designed to nurture creativity, dialogue, and reflection. Every room reflected intention. From Ayanda's reading nook filled with books spanning continents and eras, to Thabo's studio, where sketches and models symbolized both professional excellence and emotional depth. Challenges remained inevitable. Business pressures sometimes pulled Thabo away for days, requiring careful communication and quieting to ensure Sifo's needs were met. Ayanda, too, faced unexpected responsibilities at school or in her community work. Yet, their mutual respect and shared vision allowed them to navigate these obstacles with grace. They taught Sifo the value of responsibility, compromise, and resilience, not through lectures, but through observation and lived experience. One of the most powerful lessons came when Sifo encountered a group of underprivileged children in a rural area during a family visit for one of Thabo's projects. The disparity between his life and theirs struck him deeply. Thabo knelt beside him, explaining the importance of using resources, talent, and opportunity to uplift others. Ayanda reinforced the lesson, emphasizing empathy, humility, and the impact of small, consistent acts of kindness. Sifo left the experience not only inspired but determined to contribute meaningfully to society, internalizing values that would guide him well into adulthood. As years passed, Sifo's adolescence blossomed into a period of self-discovery and growth. He excelled academically, developed artistic and architectural interests, and cultivated meaningful friendships rooted in shared values rather than superficial status. The stability, guidance, and intentional love provided by Ayanda and Thabo ensured he was grounded, confident, and emotionally aware. Thabo and Ayanda's relationship, too, matured into something remarkable. They shared a life marked by intentionality, trust, and shared ambition, not merely to succeed professionally, but to create a legacy of love, purpose, and impact. Moments of quiet reflection on their veranda, long walks through Johannesburg streets, and family dinners filled with conversation became the true markers of luxury. They celebrated milestones together, Sepho's school achievements, project completions, and personal victories with joy, gratitude, and a deep sense of purpose. In this chapter of their lives, they understood that luxury was inseparable from responsibility, resilience, and emotional connection. They had turned heartbreak into opportunity, absence into presence, and regret into motivation. Their South African journey, filled with contrasts of wealth and struggle, beauty and challenge, served as both backdrop and metaphor for the life they had intentionally built. A life where love, integrity, and purpose defined true success. And as the sun set over Johannesburg, painting the city in shades of gold and crimson, the family sat together on the terrace. Sifu nestled between Thabo and Ayanda. In that serene, powerful moment, all three understood the profound lesson that had guided them through years of trials. The greatest luxury in life is the richness of trust, the depth of love, and the courage to rebuild a future, even after loss. The years continued to pass, and with each season, the family grew stronger, wiser, and more grounded in their shared purpose. Sifu, now a young teenager, had developed a natural confidence and curiosity that drew people toward him. He had inherited Thabo's analytical mind and Ayanda's empathy, creating a unique blend of intellect and emotional intelligence. Friends, teachers, and community members admired him not only for his talents but also for his integrity and kindness. Thabo and Ayanda recognized the importance of guiding Sifu, without limiting his independence. They encouraged him to pursue his passions while gently teaching responsibility, resilience, and humility. Weekend workshops in art, architecture, and community service became his playgrounds of growth. Sifu thrived under their care, developing a sense of purpose that extended beyond personal achievement to creating positive impact for others. Luxury, in their lives, had transformed once again. It was no longer measured by material possessions, high-end vehicles, or lavish parties. Instead, it was in the quality of moments spent together, the depth of relationships nurtured, and the meaningful contributions made to society. Thabo's projects now included entire neighborhoods rebuilt with sustainability, elegance, and accessibility in mind. Ayanda's educational programs expanded, reaching schools across South Africa, ensuring that children from diverse backgrounds received both academic guidance and emotional mentorship. One memorable project took the family to the Eastern Cape, where Thabo was tasked with designing a coastal resort that would integrate local communities into its planning. Sifu, fascinated by the culture, geography, and stories of the residents, documented sketches and observations, asking thoughtful questions about architecture, environment, and social impact. Ayanda guided him in understanding the delicate balance between ambition and responsibility, teaching him that true success is measured by the lives touched and uplifted, not by accolades alone. During their travels, they discovered the profound beauty of South Africa. The golden plains of the Free State, the vibrant streets of Cape Town, the serene shores of KwaZulu, Natal, and the majestic peaks of the Drakensberg. Each journey offered lessons in culture, history, and humanity. Luxury was present in the experiences themselves, the shared meals with local families, conversations with artisans, and the quiet mornings watching the sunrise over the landscape. These experiences became the foundation of Sifu's worldview, shaping his understanding of empathy, gratitude, and purpose. Yet life remained realistic and challenging. Thabo faced corporate pressures, demanding deadlines, and the scrutiny of high-profile clients. Ayanda dealt with the complexities of educational reforms and the emotional labor of mentoring young minds. Sifu navigated the trials of adolescence, friendships, and academic expectations. Through every difficulty, they leaned on each other. The family had developed a rhythm of support and resilience, understanding that love, trust, and communication were the pillars that sustained them. Thabo often reflected on the path that had led him here. He remembered the mistakes, the lost years, and the moments of regret after separating from Ayanda. He realized that adversity had refined him, teaching lessons that no success or luxury could provide. He had learned that wealth without purpose was hollow, recognition without integrity was fleeting, and achievement without connection was empty. The life he now led, though quieter than the fast-paced career he once chased, was richer in meaning, fulfillment, and love. One evening, as the family gathered in their Johannesburg home, they celebrated Sifo's acceptance into a specialized art and design program that combined technical skills with community engagement. Thabo and Ayanda watched with pride as their son spoke passionately about his vision for designing spaces that uplifted people and honored their culture. Their hearts swelled with gratitude, knowing that the lessons they had taken root and would continue to flourish. Luxury, they realized, was the life they had consciously built together. It was reflected in Sifo's curiosity, confidence, and moral compass. It was seen in the communities transformed by Thabo's architectural vision, and the students empowered by Ayanda's guidance. It was present in quiet evenings spent on the terrace, watching the city lights shimmer, sharing stories, laughter, and the serenity that only intentional living could create. The past, with all its pain, regret, and separation, no longer held power over them. Instead, it served as a foundation for growth, reflection, and gratitude. They understood that life's true wealth was resilience, the courage to rebuild, and the willingness to embrace love and responsibility fully. Every challenge faced, every mistake acknowledged, and every moment of patience cultivated had brought them closer to a life of genuine abundance. As Sifo looked toward the horizon, he saw not only the opportunities before him, but also the legacy of integrity, empathy, and purpose his parents had built. Thabo and Ayanda, side by side, felt the quiet joy of a life lived intentionally, fully aware that the greatest luxury lay in trust, love, and the courage to create a future that honored both the past and the potential ahead. In that moment, the family understood a truth that transcended wealth, status, and recognition. Luxury is not defined by what you have, but by what you touch, and the love that endures. South Africa, with its breathtaking landscapes, complex history, and vibrant communities, was not just the backdrop of their story, it was a teacher, a mirror, and a canvas upon which they had painted a life of meaning, resilience, and extraordinary richness. And so, the journey continued. Sifo grew into a thoughtful, creative, and compassionate young man. Thabo's architecture flourished, reflecting elegance, purpose, and social responsibility. Ayanda's educational programs expanded their reach, transforming lives with knowledge and empathy. Together, they became a living testament to the power of patience, perseverance, and intentional living. Their story, rooted in heartbreak and transformed through resilience, became a quiet inspiration for those who witnessed it. It proved that even after mistakes, separation, and loss, life could be rebuilt with love, integrity, and purpose. True luxury, they had learned, is the richness of human connection, the depth of compassion, and the courage to embrace every moment with intention. As the sun set over Johannesburg, casting golden light across the city, the family stood together on their terrace. Sifo's laughter echoed into the evening air, blending with the quiet hum of life around them. Thabo and Ayanda exchanged a look, understanding without words that this was the culmination of years of struggle, growth, and unwavering commitment. They had transformed heartbreak into hope, loss into purpose, and ordinary life into extraordinary richness. In the end, they knew that the greatest story was not written in wealth, accolades, or recognition, but in the love they shared, the lives they touched, and the legacy of values, wisdom, and resilience they had created. Life, they realized, was the ultimate luxury, and theirs had been consciously built, with courage, patience, and unwavering dedication to what truly mattered.